Right, welcome everybody. Sorry about the delay. Just waiting for Adam to start. So Ella, if you could just get in contact with Adam and get him to jump in, that'll be fantastic. So today's Q&A is about Southwest versus East. Which is the best area to buy into? What do we know about our areas? Adam Dockley will be joining us shortly, and he is the master of East London and outside as well. He's also expanded into Hertfordshire and some areas of Essex. So he's very much the master area. I am the co-founder of James Pendleton. We have a business in Southwest London. Our residential business covers most of Southwest London, and we have a new homes business that covers other areas. So hopefully we're going to have a bit of a debate this evening. Fight his corner. Now, if he doesn't come on, obviously he won't be able to fight his corner, so we'll be shouting about Southwest being the extreme best. But I'll jump into the questions, and then Adam, hopefully when he joins in, we can get started. So we've had quite a few people send in some questions. So how does your role differ being in London and outside of London? So I started my career outside of London, so I've got some good knowledge on this, and then I've have 20 years experience of being inside London. So it's very much a different beast being outside of London and the way I kind of explain working in London, it runs at a double heartbeat. It really does. So outside of London, there's a lot more chains. There's a lot more people to deal with. It's a bit of a slower process. In London, people want things done instantly. If you send an email or a WhatsApp, they want a response, as soon as possible. I'll just see if I can get Adam to join here. Let's just have a little look. Go live at Dockleys. Let's have a little look. So it says Dockleys is unable to join, Ella. So if you could just have a chat with Adam about that, that'd be great. So yeah, very different working inside of London to outside of London. Both interesting, both can be fun, but there is a way of doing business differently. So question 2 that we had sent in was, how does social media benefit your industry? And well, this is a perfect example of social media working for us. We found that obviously working with a professional, as we do now with Ella and Kit, who works for us in-house, it is kind of a full-time job working on social media. It's promoting as much as we can, making clients aware of what we've got to offer from a property point of view and from a business point of view. Getting clients from it doesn't give us the feed that, the kind of the Rightmove and Zoopla and other portals do, but it certainly gets us in front of people who are looking for property and they want to know what's going on. So let me just try one more time and see if I can get Adam to get in. I know the guys are working in the background to see if that's going to happen. So let's see if that's going to happen. So on to question number 3. What kind of properties gets us excited? So we had this question with Adam actually earlier about what gets us excited. Now, having a love and a passion for property, every property does. And people might say, well, that might not be true, but it certainly does. Whether it's a studio flat that needs a lot of work doing to it, and I can see some potential in it for somebody, or an incredible apartment, which we've got. It's a £7.5 million apartment overlooking Battersea Park on 3 levels, 4,800 square foot. Just spectacular. Those are the kinds of ones that do blow you away. The view that you get from some of these properties overlooking parks is just phenomenal. So that gets me excited. But again, there's a different buyer for a different property. I've sold thousands of properties over the last 20 odd years, and there's so many different wants and desires for properties, whether it's a big garden, whether it's no garden. If it gets somebody else excited, it actually pleases me as well. So yeah, there are some amazing properties out there, and don't get me wrong, when you see a multi-million pound property, who's not going to get excited about it? You'd have to be pretty crazy not to. So if let me just see one more time. Ella has messaged Adam. So Adam, if you're listening, Ella's messaged you to try and jump in. So apologies for having some technical difficulties. We'll getting Adam in, but it might well be an East London thing, but I'm not sure. I'll have to let him answer that when he jumps in. they might be a bit more relaxed in East London about joining things. I know they certainly are in Shoreditch. So on to the next question. If money was no object, where would you live? Good question. Really good question, actually. So I live in a place called Claygate. It's just outside of London, but spent 20 years living in London and loved it. You know, really loved being there. I loved the area, loved what it had to offer. And that was obviously southwest London, not east. Let's just make that clear. And really, I looked for a place just outside of London, just for a little bit more space. But obviously wasn't too far away. So I love living here. The other part of, I'd like to spend 6 months in Mallorca. There's no doubt about it. Another favourite part of the world for me. Adam was saying he's a massive fan of Ibiza. So again, it's not too far away. They're both there in the Balearic Islands. But again, there's obviously other parts of the world that I haven't seen that I'd like to see. Where would I live there? Again, Thailand's a place I'd spend some time as well on the coast. Beautiful down there. So question number 5 is, what are the top 3 selling features that buyers are looking for in each other's markets? Now, Adam obviously can't answer at the moment, but hopefully we'll get him to join in soon so we can run over those things. But the top 3 things that I think people are really looking for in our area, and maybe in East London as well, in other areas of the UK, since the post of lockdown, people are really looking for outside space. It's been a real tick box now when people are looking to buy, even and looking to rent as well. Is there some outside space? Because it's been on people's mind, is would there be another lockdown? Is that something that we're going to be heading into again? I think it's highly unlikely, but it's obviously still on people's minds. The classics are close to a tube, close to a train station. Is their local amenities good? Am I close to those things? They're always at the top of buyers' lists as well. So but the one also as well, I think that sticks out the most is because obviously some people are now working from home. There's a bit of a hybrid model going on with some industries. Is there an office space that I can use? Is there a room? Is there an outside area that I could use for an office? Is there... Let's see if we can get Adam in. So he has requested. Let's have a little look. So 1 second. Go live with Dockleys. Let's have a little look. Apologies for that. But yeah, the facts of looking for an office space within the home. I know a lot of people who have been working from home. I've been working from a bedroom or been working from the sofa or kitchen. That's not really, you can do that for a short period of time, but it's not really feasible long term. Yes, he joins us. What was happening in East London? Something a bit more exciting, Adam?
Obviously,
yeah. That's classic Adam, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I'll just turn up when I like, right?
Sorry.
Don't worry. Technically, this has absolutely happened, but obviously, coming from something that was more fun than this, maybe, eh? But Adam, I got into a couple of questions, so if that's okay with you, but
yeah.
Just to quickly introduce you, this is Adam Dockley from his company Dockleys. He's the absolute master of East London and now out of London into Hertfordshire and those kind of areas, into Essex now. So yeah, Adam, if I just hand over to you to explain what you do, that'd be great.
So I've been an estate agent for 25 years, man and boy, literally. Started out life in Hertfordshire selling country houses, moved into London 18 years ago in Docklands and sort of took that by storm. Worked my way through the ranks, set up companies and acted for some big developers and clients and what have you, and managed to get myself in a position where I could open up my own agency, which I'm very proud of, and sort of put a bit of a spin on an estate agency. Not a traditional model. My agents were self-employed, as Lee knows, and you know, try and do things a little bit differently to break the mold a little bit. Not your typical agent. I'll try not to be, as best I can. So yeah, try and make it interesting. Try and get people to enjoy buying property, because I've got a passion. I know Lee's got a passion. We talked about this a lot, and unfortunately, it's very corporate stuffy in a lot of places, and that's not me. You know, I've been offered corporate jobs before, and you know, just not interested, because I don't feel that I can give my best to my clients that way. So you know, hence why I'm not in a suit. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's really. But enough about you now, Adam. Anyway. No, that's brilliant. Thanks for that brief synopsis. That Adam is an absolute master, and he is bucking the trend, and I think a lot of people, the typical estate agent, the shiny suit brigade, that's really being phased out now. And if companies are still doing that, then more fools them, because agency is about real truthful advice. And we don't have sales negotiators, we have property consultants. So we're consulting whether you want to buy or let or invest or not. It's your decision. We are not window salesmen, we are property advisors. You know, we're all kind of wealth advisors in the property industry, and that's what we are. So I'm going to quickly run through some of the questions that I've been talking about already, Adam. I'll try and get some short answers off you, and then we'll move on to the one. So how does your role differ being in London, outside London?
Well, outside London, it's like herding kittens with massive chains, and inside London, it's basically just educating the two people either side of the chain to understand the way that the transaction goes through.
Very, very much so. I think that's one of the things I said. It's such longer chains outside of London, you know, a lot more balls to juggle. But again, doesn't mean it's any different. You know, working with these clients in London, obviously London clients tend to want things yesterday. But obviously that's the expectation we know. So how does social media, how has it benefited yourself and you know, your business?
I think we said this a bit, we talked about this before, and it is hard to quantify. I mean, unless someone says that they've seen you on social media and they really like the way that you are, which has happened sort of quite a lot. But
let's be honest. There are people love you, I'm joking. And that was me. I said I liked you.
Unless you're, I mean, things like Instagram is about property porn. You know, we spoke about Daniel earlier on, Mr. Super Prime. Daniel Daggers does an amazing job in central London.
Big up to the Daggers. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he said to me once, you need to be doing 3 to 4 hours of social media a day. I barely have time for a sandwich, so I don't know where I'm going to fit that in, but thanks for the advice, Dan. That are absolutely beautiful and amazing, then, you know, you always, but your day to day, it's more about selling the person, and it's more about you, you know, and we talked about our agents, and some agents take to it and are really receptive to going, yeah, I'll be on camera, no problem at all, and I'll talk about it, and and others don't. And, you know, that's really where you're going to make your connections, is putting yourself in front of the camera and talking and showing your personality, really.
Very true. What kind of properties, another question we had is, what kind of properties get you excited?
I said big ones before, didn't I? Yeah.
Ones with big fees, we actually said. No, joking. They obviously that helps.
Anything with a story, anything with character. It could be a studio apartment in a warehouse, or it could be anything with a view. I'm obsessed with views, and you said it as well, that when you walk into someone's apartment and I just get drawn to the balcony and whatever's outside, I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Or anything that actually needs a bit of work, because you can see what it could be. You can get excited and excite and show people what it could be. And you've probably stood in apartments before where you're excited about it, and there's people standing there going,
don't see it. Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean you don't see it? This is amazing.
Very true. And I think I'd said before that it doesn't really matter what property it is. It can be anything. Yes, you know, it's all very well, and most property, you know, on Instagram is like the best of the best, isn't it? You see these ones in America, these £50 million homes, and yeah, how can they not be beautiful? You know, it's like seeing a massive boat. How not can you get excited about it? But it's the architecture, is also the idea of what people have done in a property, how they've made it look cool, how they've done a back extension that's truly unique. There was a house just off Trinity Road that somebody did. They did an underground extension, and they did it front to back of the garden. The garden was 60 foot. Wow. And they did glass boxes on top, and it was just, I mean, they spent a fortune, but it's just like, wow. Where's the architectural design and idea of that? That's just amazing. So, okay, another question was, if you had money was no object, where would you live?
Ibiza.
It's not the Isle of Wight then, no? Or the Isle of Man? No. I'm joking. Yeah, it's a cool place, isn't it? Without doubt. But I mean, the sun certainly helps. But it's the nice lifestyle, isn't it? You know that.
Yeah, and also, cool. Been going since I was 4 years old. It's like home. So, you know, my family took me out there when I was 4 or 5, I think it was, and you know, I fell in love with it then, and I go every year. I go 3 or 4 times. My sister lives out there. Yeah, we've got friends there.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Balearics without a doubt, but I also love where we live now. You know, I think the UK and since lockdown has happened, people have started to see a lot more of the UK, and the UK is off the charts beautiful. North Norfolk is wonderful. Cornwall is great, but it's a victim of its own success a bit. But there are other parts of the UK that people haven't visited and they need to visit because they are incredible no matter what the weather, really. So, okay, another question we had is, what are the top 3 selling features that buyers are looking for in your market?
Transport links, so accessibility. What else is in the area? What other things are around them? You know, shops, bars, restaurants, leisure facilities, parks, outside space. And as I said to you, a really random one, which seems to come up a lot at the moment, which is how quickly can I move in? Because sometimes there's a tenant in a flat and people, you know, we're in this culture where things happen now. You know, I want it now. And I totally understand that. And I wish, we talked about it earlier, that I wish to God there was a way of me going, there's your offer, see you later, you know, but that's not reality. And but I completely understand people just don't want to hang around.
It will come in time. And the home information packs they introduced, it was going to come legal a number of years ago, 10 or so years ago, to get kind of a property ready for the market, so you didn't have to waste this time, because how we deal with sale transactions is so archaic. It's absolutely off the chart. We're probably the only country in the world it's this slow, and it takes too long, and there's too many moving parts that you could get ready before, but getting all the banks to agree to it is the major problem. So what was question 6, Adam?
As a first-time buyer, I'm planning on buying a slightly bigger house on the outskirts of London and move to have more space. Though now I'm worried about the cost of heating a larger place and actually end up costing me much more. I feel that buying smaller, new build will take the bills down. Has this changed? Has the change in the cost of living affected people's buying behaviour? Now, I don't think it has yet. I think it will. I think that people just need to budget, and you know, okay, that's all well and good me saying people need to budget, but you know, I think what will happen at that middle of the market is that people probably just won't go out for their date night twice a month. It'll be once a month, or what you know, they'll just have to cut their cloth accordingly.
Absolutely, you're right. I think the biggest effect it'll have with large houses, that people are property rich but cash poor. I think that's gonna. I think you'll see more of those properties coming to the market, because there'll be a force of having to move, because they'll be outweighed by the cost. And you know, we deal with a lot of people in our area that, you know, they're sitting on some huge equity, but their incomes, you know, they wouldn't be able to buy anything like that property. So it's one, you know, there's a real concern for utilities prices at the moment. I've got a friend that their utility cost has gone up to $1,000 a month for a 4-bedroom house, you know, which is just it's just you're speechless, aren't you? You know, what can you do? Yes, everyone can say, yeah, I'll turn all the lights off, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that, but that's not the reality of it, because it's the standing charges, there's so much. So you know, I'm a stickler, I'm not leaving things on they shouldn't be on, but it doesn't make that much of a difference unless you turn everything off and you sit there freezing with a jacket on, you know, and you don't wash your clothes. Then you might bring your charges down, but look, something's got to change. We don't know what it is. Question 7 was, and we've got some great questions coming in from people as well, so we'll hopefully try to get to those as soon as we can. And we really thank everyone for taking the time to listen to us having a battle between East and Southwest, though it's not much of a battle because we both love each other's areas. But obviously, I'm going to be biased and say that if you're ever going to buy East, you want to just drop that. No, I'm joking. East is an incredible part of London, and it's expanding, as you know, with the Olympic Park being that area, and there's a lot of amazing transport links. It's from a point of view of where do you want to live, it's where your friends are, where do you feel comfortable. I think that's the real key element. But so number 7 was, is it true that once you leave London it's financially harder to move back in?
I said we don't want them back. Well,
exactly. If you're out, you're out. So if you're gone, you just got to go. But yeah,
it is harder. It's, you know, if you're selling, as I said, we were talking about this earlier, and if you sold a property for £1 million and you went out to somewhere and paid £500,000 for a 500,000 for a 5-bedroom detached house, and then in 3 years' time it's worth 700,000. You're going to tell me you're going to try and buy back in London again? What are you going to get? You might get a flat, you know, which is fine. You know, on that basis, if you were looking to retire back into London and you sold your £1.5 million house and bought a 700 grand flat, different. But don't try and get like for like, because that's never going to happen.
Yeah, we give this very similar advice that if you're going to step out of London, do everything you can to either keep that property and rent it out, or buy a smaller investment so you keep your foot in somewhere. So, you know, obviously the increases usually in major cities around the UK do have a bigger growth than some other areas. But saying that, you go down to Sandbanks and other parts of the UK that they're having some massive growth. But, you know, stability is in the cities, because that's where people usually come internationally. There's you know, amazing universities, and obviously that's where the salaries are being paid as well. That's where obviously the big, you know, massive companies invest into, although they do invest in other, you know, the northern powerhouse cities. But that's, you know, keeping your foot in those cities is vitally important. So where are we with question 8?
Question 8. Are there any areas on the outskirts of London that are seen to be especially up and coming, e.g. Beaconsfield and Watford? Now, as we've sort of already told people, that I grew up in Hertfordshire. I know Hertfordshire, I know Essex, and we do a lot of business out there. We've got agents out there, and we are seeing a huge migration. We always have done. You know, I said to you that when I was an agent in Hertfordshire 25 years ago, I used to ring agents in London and say to them, look, people are moving out here. Let's do a deal. Let's try and work away. I mean, there are places like, I know Hertford certainly is getting a huge amount of interest because it's on the train line back into London, you know, and Cheshunt, Hertfordshire, that sort of way. It's only, I think from Broxbourne now, it's 17 minutes to Tottenham How, and then obviously Tottenham How on the Victoria line straight into the West End, or it's like 35 minutes into Liverpool Street. So those areas are always going to get interest. You've got Crossrail happening, so you've got Essex, which Shenfield and places like that, and all around there that are going to be highly of interest. I know St Albans has always been very popular with people moving out of London. I have moved a few families out there recently where they've called me sort of a year in and gone, there's not a lot going on out here. And I'm
You said it was up and coming.
to the side.
Yeah, we just hang on another few years.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely. There's some great locations, and if anyone's really interested and wanting to know more, obviously I'm available. Please feel free to contact me. Yeah,
there's loads of areas, I guess, outside of the up and coming, and it's very difficult to pinpoint one and say go to move to that one, because it's all about infrastructure. It's all, and like you said, it's all about the people if they start businesses there and move forward with that. But yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to your budget, you know, and also your commute. You know, that if you're working in London and you're commuting out, we talked about this before. There's only so long you're going to want to do that for. So, question 9 was: I found that most new builds only offer one parking space, whereas lots of property outside of London have free on-street parking or come with parking. Do you have any advice on how to negotiate for extra parking space in London?
Don't ask.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck with that, because I think there was a parking space in Kensington that went for 650 grand. But you know, if you've got the money and you've got a flash car, then why not? But new builds, councils all around London, not sure much outside of London, but all around London, that's almost zero parking allowance. So they don't allow you to park on the street near to that new development, and they're not allowing you to build underground parking in new developments in the 106. So that's exactly. Or we said this before. If you want a car, you got to think about how many times I'm going to use it. If I'm going to use it every day, then great. It's great to have a car. But if I'm going to use it once a month, what's it costing me to sit in a parking space? What's it costing me insurance? What's it costing me in fuel? All those things you've just got to look at it on a yearly basis and go, what is the cost versus the reward? And it's lovely to have a car. Don't get me wrong; it's fantastic to have one. But if you live in London, do I need it? Do I really need it, or can I rent one as and when I need it, or can I borrow Adam's? He's got a load, so just tap him up for one. Yeah. So,
seen that Dan's joined us, and he missed his little shout out earlier. So
Dan Daggers, okay, Mr. Super Prime at Adam speaks very highly about you. Hi Dan. Thanks for jumping in. Obviously, we need to get together at some point as well. It'd be good to see you. So there's definitely some collaborations that we can all do together because we're all very much on the same page. We all have a love and a passion for the property industry and actually doing the right thing by people. That's the number one thing. That's why Adam and I get on very well, that we actually want to give the client the best advice that's going in the market. We don't just want to sell them or let them a property. We want to give you the best advice so that they can make an informed decision about their property move. So yeah, thanks for that, Dan. Where was our next question? What do we have?
The Elizabethan being built from Essex. Will this make Essex a sought after place to live? I think Shenfield, which is where it starts, is already a sought after place to live. I think anywhere on the Elizabeth line will have a double hike in prices. You know, when it was announced, it's like any big infrastructure project. You get the announcement and there's a big hike in prices, and then there's a lull, and then when it actually comes to fruition and things are working, it goes again. So yeah,
I think you're right. We've got some clients that are building out Slough way, and when people hear that word Slough, they immediately think either the office or industrial. But if you invested in Slough 10 years ago, you'd have doubled your money. You know, and the people that, you know, the smart people are investing that money in there and taking that risk, and it's a risk. Any property investment, any investment has a risk element attached to it. But you know, they're looking at thinking what's going to be in 10 years time. Now we advise clients, as to Adam does, on investment properties, whether they're buying to let them or buying them for their family or to use as pied-à-terres. We look at an investment sort of structure on a 10-year basis. So if you're buying something now, we say to you, look, you want to be holding it for 10 years to get good value, and you look at that kind of build, and that's what the Far East market have been doing for 25 years. They've been investing in London, and they've been investing ferociously, and they've been buying and holding, and obviously the uplifts have been phenomenal. So one of our next questions is, and I'm mindful that we've only got a few more minutes to go. So if new builds weren't as beneficial long term, this was a question that we looked at and thought that didn't even make sense. So we're going to actually delete that person from our Instagram page for asking that question. I'm only joking. So question 13, Adam, what was that one?
As someone in their late 20s, not interested in having a family for a while, I don't yet want to leave London, especially as I work here. However, I'm barely able to afford a one-bedroom flat in an unsafe area on my own. What do you think might happen in London property market next March when Help to Buy scheme ends? And will the future for first-time buyers look any brighter?
So we said it before, the average age now for first-time purchase is around 35. So if you're in your late 20s buying, well done. So that's good news. Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Yeah. And we also said as well, you know, there's so much equity sitting in property, you know, the bank, mum, dad, and grandparents, or you know, people you know in your circle. Yeah. They want to try and extract that out as much as they can, because it's not working for anyone sitting as equity in a property apart from equity growth. So if you've got £500,000 or someone's got £500,000 equity in a property, and you draw out a couple of hundred to help somebody to get on the ladder or whatever, it's a great thing to do, because they're going to see an increase and they could take a percentage of that. But you know, it's one of those things where, you know, it is an expensive place to buy in London.
And we think Help to Buy. We don't think that will be the end. Sorry, so no more. Don't worry about first-time buyers anymore. We're on to something else. I think that there will be something, whether it be through the mortgage companies, whether it be through the banks or government, there will be something that will replace Help to Buy scheme. There
has to be, or the new build first-time buyer market would collapse. It would just grind to a halt, because it's been one of the most beneficial things for new builds. And you know, developers will stop building if there's no product. There are developers that Adam and I are both dealing with in our respective areas that are slightly concerned because the government aren't telling people what's happening next. And obviously, it's supposedly coming to an end at the end of the year. So the sooner the better. But once we get information in the industry, obviously it'll be known. And if you want to talk to us about that, then obviously you can get in contact with us. So question 15.
14?
Is it 14 or 15? 14. I've been given the advice to use my £50,000 deposit to buy 2 smaller flats way outside London and let them to tenants, then keep renting the flat myself and live inside London and enjoy the profit from the other rentals. And in the meantime, with the mortgages being paid off by the tenants. Then when I have good equity in those properties, I should sell them and buy a property in London to reduce how much I need to borrow. Is this a good idea?
Extensively, yeah, it is. But why would you not take the 50 grand and buy something in London?
Exactly. Buy to lets, as we all know, they sound great, but they're very expensive. You know, the tax implication, the profit on the tax per year, service charge. People sometimes don't go into these things eyes wide open, and they really must do. And Adam, you know, and myself were actually masters of saying to people, right, look at the structure of every bit of the payment of this and weigh up the option. Now, if you put that 50 grand into one property in London, whether it be East London or Southwest, the best, you would get more of an increase in equity than you probably would do in the outside of London properties, right? Unless you're buying in a high value area. But again, you know, if you do know where those areas are that you're getting those increases, let us know. So where are we with, well, we've only got 2 more questions left, and I think we've had some fantastic questions so far. So where are we with question 15?
Yeah, so my parents bought a house in Muswell here in 1998 for 280,000. It's now worth. We call them the lucky generation. What is your vision for this? Where do we buy to become lucky in the future too? And is it perhaps outside London?
Hang on. I'm going to get my crystal ball.
Yeah, exactly. If I had a crystal ball, I would not be telling you lot.
Isn't it amazing? So I'm not sure, Adam, you're in East London, but I know when we started in Southwest in Balham in 2001, that area and some roads has gone up over 300% in value.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If we'd have gone back then and said that's going to happen, everyone would have said no way. But it has happened. Could it happen again? Possibly. You know, if you think about areas around the world, you know, we've just sold 2 one-bedroom apartments in Battersea Power Station, both north of 1.6 million. You know, if you'd have said that to me 5 years ago, I'd have said probably not going to happen. You'll probably struggle to do that. But there is money out there, and if you go to Hong Kong or Singapore, then £1 million gets you nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, are we going to see that again? I mean, I'd love to think that we do, but
so.
Baby boomers have had it off, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's why you should be extracting that money out of equity. Now, the government wants the property market to move because there is so much money sitting in equity in the UK property market. It is off the charts. It's absolute billions upon billions.
Yeah.
And they want to get that money moving. So, you know, like I said, if there's money there, get it used.
Also, I read an article not so long ago, and I've mentioned this a few people. When they scrapped the stamp duty for that year period up to over 500,000, they actually made more. I think it was nearly £750 million to £1 billion more in stamp duty receipts in that year than they did the year before. What does that tell you? It tells you that
transactions,
liquidity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So our final question was: buy a bigger house just outside London that needs renovating, or buy a small new build flat inside of London. What makes better long-term financial sense?
Again, that's a really hard one because it depends where outside London you're buying it. I mean, if you're buying a property for investment, then you need to do your research on both, really, because if it's just purely for investment, either could happen. But if you're buying it as a home first, well, it's irrelevant because it's a home. Do you know what I mean? If you're saying buying a bigger house outside London, that tends to make me think that they're buying it for themselves to live in, which obviously any renovation work done properly is going to increase the value. But it just depends on where. I mean,
then there's huge cost. You know, I was speaking to our neighbour who's having a loft extension done, and the amount it was double what I thought it would be. It's the cost of materials now on renovating. You know, that's why 15 years ago, 20 years ago, everyone wanted to be a developer. Now, everyone's scared about developing because they realise how much cost it is versus return. But you know. Again, I think Alan's right. You got to buy for what you want, and people. This is what I've been telling people all my life: stop buying and thinking your property's going to go up in value. If it does, well done, good luck. You've done really well, and you haven't actually done anything. You've just got lucky. You buy it because you love it, because you see potential. You see yourself living there, and you see yourself being happy there. Because having a happy home is one of the key elements, right, to life.
Yeah.
It's having somewhere to go home to and feel safe and feel comfortable, whether you're letting or whether you're buying. So
Yeah.
that's the key trigger for me to advise people is, you know, it's down to you. We are here. Adam is a total specialist in East London and beyond. Anything you need Southwest, then come and speak to James Pendleton or myself. But Adam, thank you very much for your time.
Absolute pleasure.
Total, utter legend. You know, you're a great man. You're brilliant at what you do. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you. And
thank you,
you know Southwest is the best. Boom.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Southwest doing, so, you know.
Take care. Bye.